What's going on? Can you guys hear me? Can you see me all right? Just wanted to check everything's working. I think it's working. I just can't see myself. Oh, there we go. I'm back. Right. How is everyone doing? Macaulay, Austin, Josh, Matty, how you all doing? Big up, Matty. How you doing, mate? PJ Quinn, how you doing, mate? I just wanted to, I haven't done one of these in a while, and I wanted to jump on and have a chat. Obviously, we were kind of doing these lives through the international break. Through the summer transfer window. We are in the international break now. I feel a bit rusty. Talking through transfers and kind of giving daily updates and having these little chats. But I feel like a lot has happened this week off the back of the Newcastle game that I kind of wanted to talk about. Obviously, there's some sort of news bits to talk about. Obviously, Djed Spence being left out of the Europa League squad. We can have a conversation around that. Again, with some of the players that are on international duty, some really encouraging performances from the likes of Dejan Kulusevski and Christian Romero, while they've been away with Sweden and with Argentina as well. Lucas Bergvall coming on, and I believe making his Swedish debut yesterday in that win for Sweden as well. So we're going to talk about that, get more into that, of course, as well as any other bits. And I just want to have a bit of a chat, really, as well, about kind of the negative feeling around Spurs at the moment and kind of the fan base. I did a podcast yesterday on the Fighting Cock for Patreon, where we sort of talked about it, and I believe the guys have got an episode coming out today where they're sort of talking about the overall feeling and what's going on, and is there as much of a divide as people are kind of making out, and all these kind of things, and what is really going on, kind of what is the true feeling of Spurs fans. And I'm going to kind of give you my thoughts on a lot of the negativity that we're sort of hearing from sort of certain corners. Look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion as a fan. I 100% get that. I just don't agree with a lot of the stuff that's kind of being said. I'm going to have a video come out on my channel over the weekend, hopefully, where I kind of break down from more of a tactical point of view and looking into some of the data as to why Spurs are essentially underperforming so far this season. And there is reason for fans to be optimistic to kind of turn this around and get results on the board. Me there using language like turn things around, right? We've won one game, we've drawn one game, and we've lost one game. Last season, we'd won 2 and drawn 1 in the first 3. And I think there are actually kind of distinct parallels to where we're at now versus where we were at last season. And that's something I kind of want to touch on a little bit in this stream, but also in the video that I put out over the weekend. But make sure to like the stream, make sure to subscribe, make sure to make your voice heard as well. Make sure to get in the comments and kind of have your say as we kind of go through all of this stuff. And yeah, these lives, I think we'll bring these back and sort of have more chats. Also, one thing, guys, I want to ask, kind of get your opinion on, is whether I tweeted this out yesterday. Where was it? Oh, I can't find it now. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Football Manager 2024. Is currently free on Epic Games. Should I stream it? Let me know in the comments below. Would you be interested in me streaming a Football Manager Spurs series? Obviously, the new game isn't out for till the end of November, so I feel like we could get the current one, which is currently free. What I was thinking was we could almost get people on as like assistant managers and stuff as well, which would be fun. Have your guys obviously input in the chat, and we can kind of build the team together and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. You guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Right, let's crack on. Make sure to drop me a follow on Twitter as well, by the way, guys, if that's okay. Right, so yesterday we got the news that Djed Spence and Sergio Reguilón have been left out of Tottenham's Europa League squad. Obviously, this is something that I think a lot of people were surprised by, especially with Djed Spence. I was, and I kind of made my feelings a bit clear on this on Twitter yesterday, but I haven't had the chance to speak about it on video on here, and I kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts, obviously, because I think a lot of people were taken a bit by surprise and taken aback by it. For me, it doesn't really make any sense because we'll go through the whole squad as well, which I don't think Spurs have actually announced yet, but Alistair Gold wrote a piece on it yesterday. It had to be submitted by the end of play on Wednesday, so it has been submitted now, and Spurs have set their squad as it says in the tweets. The The squad can still be changed in January 2025 after the end of the transfer window. So maybe a few players move on and Djed Spence comes back into the fold. My thing with Spence is that I just kind of struggle to see where his game time is going to come from unless Pedro Porro gets an injury, because I don't... And the thing that I don't understand, and I'd love to hear Ange Postecoglou kind of come out and talk about this, because I think, again, one thing I wanted to touch on is kind of the reaction on this towards Postecoglou and saying that, you know, he's a disgrace and all this kind of stuff, which is just quite frankly ridiculous. And that he's lied to the fans and all this kind of stuff by saying that Spence had a really good pre-season. It would not have been an easy decision to make. You guys know how complicated it is in terms of the homegrown rules in Europe, kind of trying to balance the squad. It wouldn't have been an easy decision for him to make. I don't think it's the right one, personally. I really don't think it's the right one, because Djed Spence throughout pre-season was used predominantly at left back, right, as kind of cover for Destiny Udogie while he was getting back up to speed with things. And obviously Pedro Porro was playing on the right. Archie Gray also played on the right. Spence got a few games, I think, maybe at right back. But yeah, he played predominantly at left back. And although it's not perfect for him, and I don't think he looked massively comfortable there, he still provides cover. And one thing I do worry about in this squad, look, I came out and said multiple times that I think Spurs had a good transfer window. In the overall scheme of things, look, we could have done more, and I think our window for many people will be defined by what we didn't do rather than what we did, and I've said that multiple times, and I totally get that. I totally agree with that. We should have brought in another left-hand sided defender that could have covered at left-back or centre-back, ideally both, or you buy one player for one position and maybe you can move Van de Ven over to left-back, etc., and provide someone to actually cover for him, or ideally you provide cover for a doggy, or ideally you provide cover for both. But look, not everything can be done in one transfer window. But I would have thought that Spence would have been used at left-back, in Europe to kind of give a doggy that break. Look, Destiny Udogie hasn't exactly had the sharpest start to the season, but again, I think, look, he's coming back from injury. He hardly had a pre-season really for Spurs. He hasn't looked at his best, but he hasn't played a lot of football in a long time. So I think Destiny Udogie will come back after the international break in a better place than he went into it. But I am surprised about this. I am really, really surprised, and I don't agree with the decision at all. When you kind of dive into the squad, which we've got here, and we'll kind of provide some context to go along with that as well. I love Football London, but the website is an absolute nightmare. And I'll come to your comments in a sec, guys, and we can sort of have a chat about it. Spurs had to submit their squad to UEFA for the competition by end of play on Wednesday, and in doing so they had to comply with the various regulations that are placed upon the numbers that can be selected. While Ange Postecoglou's Premier League squad is straightforward, with everyone able to be registered within the squad, the Europa League requirements are far more awkward. The first immediate difference from the Premier League rules is that under 21's list is called the B list, and in UEFA's eyes, it only applies to players who have spent more than 2 years at the club. So while players like Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire can be included in that, it means new summer signings Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall do not apply. So have to be registered in the main bunch instead. The other major difference comes in the classification of homegrown players, which in European competition falls into two different categories of the squad. The rules then say that as a minimum, 8 of those 25 places are reserved exclusively for locally trained players, and no club may have more than 4 association trained players listed among those 8 places. If a club has fewer than 8 locally trained players within the squad, then the maximum number of players on list A is reduced accordingly. So Spurs only had 2 of the 4 required club trained players in Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman. So we had to then reduce the size of the squad down by 2 places to 23, which meant someone had to be left out. And that player was unfortunately Djed Spence. So a new squad list can be submitted with a handful of permitted changes if Spurs advance past the group stages, where they will face Karabag, Ferencváros, Azul, Margaz, yeah, we know that. So when you look at that defence, we've left ourselves incredibly light. Our only real defenders are... And again, you can put Archie Gray in there as well as someone that can play at right back. And I do think Archie Gray will play a lot at right back. It puts a lot of pressure. Or maybe he'll use Gray at centre back at some point as well. I think Gray will be used quite in a quite versatile manner in this squad, which is good because he has those qualities to play in those multiple positions. But I do think we've left ourselves short, and I do think it does then reflect. Not necessarily as poorly on the transfer window, but I just don't understand this decision when you've got 4 goalkeepers there. What was the need to put Fraser Forster in that? Because I feel like he's probably going to play Vicario anyway. Someone here says, Sarah, apologies if that's not how you pronounce your name. if you look at Spence pre-season friendly games, he was actually good. Ange also praised him. He said Spence will be here to play for us, but I don't know what happened. He didn't get selected for the Europa League squads. I think, unfortunately, like I said, it was a difficult decision to make. I think another player that you could have looked at leaving out was potentially Timo Werner as well. I don't know why Dominic Solanke's not popped up in there. Oh, he's there at the bottom. There's just so many adverts on it. So Solanke's obviously there. Werner is another player that could have potentially been left out. Maybe there's certain clauses in his contract that he has to play in the European games, etc. It makes that signing of Timo Werner look a bit, unnecessary potentially when you've got the likes of Mikey Moore coming through, who again Postecoglou said that, and I sort of want to talk about something with Lancashire and Mikey Moore in a sec. I'm just going to bring that up because I actually forgot to get that up. But yeah, what is the need really for 4 goalkeepers? It either shows that he doesn't fully trust the likes of Whiteman and Austin yet, and that he's had to kind of put them in just because it helps us in terms of getting the maximum amount of people that we can in the squad as possible. But it's a real shame for Spence, and I do think we're gonna end up causing ourselves problems because he's going to start Porro in the Premier League. We know that. He's going to start a doggy in the Premier League. Spence might get minutes in rotation. Spence will probably get minutes in the cup competitions, but one of those cup competitions doesn't start until the new year. The first one starts obviously in a few weeks against Coventry, which I think he'll probably start in that game for sure. But how is he kind of going to take this? Is he actually kind of going to be motivated enough to play in these games if he feels like he's been left out? Again, I'd love to hear kind of Ange's thoughts on this. And look, I sympathise with Postecoglou because it would not have been an easy decision at all. But I think we've got problems. I do think we've got problems in that area now. I think we probably have problems in that area anyway in terms of not signing that cover. But I just don't get this. I really don't get this, if I'm being honest. I think we've caused ourselves a bit of a problem. Let's come to some of the comments. Spence will probably play during the Coventry match. He probably will, yeah. He'll probably cut competitions. Imagine he doesn't start versus Coventry. I think he probably will. Unless something happens behind the scenes. Unless something's happened behind the scenes, to make Postecoglou make this decision. I doubt it. Obviously, we're not going to know until the Arsenal game whether he's on the bench or not, which I presume he probably will be. Maz says, I feel for Djed. I do. I do as well. I do feel for Djed as well. But, yeah. Let me know your guys' thoughts there's a lot of chat in the comments about Levy and Enoch, and we'll kind of come onto that in a little bit. I don't really want to focus on that right now while we're talking about Djed Spence. We can save that a little bit for later in the stream. Ali Gold said this may open the door to Dorrington joining the first team. We will see. I actually think someone made a good point about Alfie Dorrington because we don't actually necessarily need fully the cover. Well, we could have done with signing a player at centre-back 100%. Obviously, Phillips has gone on loan. Obviously, they rate Dorrington quite highly, but he's obviously been out injured for a long time. I actually do think Alfie Dorrington kind of profiles quite well as a right-back. Someone made this point on Twitter the other day, and I kind of see it. I do see it. But I do think he'll probably be used as a centre-back if that opens a door for him. But I do think... I'm not sure whether that will happen or not. We shall see. Sonny says, seems like Forster is a big part of the dressing room, but I can't see any reason to justify him picking over Djed. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Noah Bennett says we'll have to do well in the Europa. Yeah, we do. 100%. We do. Look, with this squad, we should 100% still have enough to get through to the knockout stages, without a doubt. But it's just kind of the implications that it has on us in terms of like how do we... I guess in terms of balancing resting players in the Premier League and stuff like that, or resting players in Europe to play them in the Premier League when, a couple of injuries in defence and we're in a big problem. But look, you still got Ben Davies. There was a lot of people saying that Spence should have been picked over Ben Davies. I don't agree with that, if I'm being honest. I think they both should have been in there, but I don't think you don't... If Ben Davies is there, you don't not put Ben Davies in the squad. He can play at centre-back, he can play at left-back. I know it's not ideal, but I think picking Davies isn't a problem at all. He's not a problem at all. He's experienced. He can play in those positions. He's not exactly, like I said, he's not the perfect fit by any means, but I think he'll do a job 100%. So I wouldn't have necessarily picked Spence over Davies. I think it should have been both of them. Noah says Donnelly should have been given a chance in the squad, obviously, before he went on loan to Orient. Again, could have potentially played at left back. Yeah, not a bad shout. But I think obviously they kind of seeing his development as important. And I think that Orient loan was a good opportunity for him. Again, I feel like a lot of people are saying that almost like because Alfie Devine's gone on loan and Jamie Donnelly's gone on loan and Sunset Bell's left and Santiago's left, I think a lot of fans almost think that they're being lied to when it comes to this youth project under Ange and saying that, like, what happened to all these amazing young players that are going to play and get first-team football. I'm going to come on to that, but look, I think it's quite clear that players like Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire will get opportunities in this competition. I do genuinely believe that. But we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know until it actually happens. So there's no point kind of moaning about something that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I feel for Spence. I do feel for Spence. But Sergio Reguilon has... there was an update a little bit on him earlier. And now I can't actually find the tweet. Bear with me. Oh yeah, here it is. There was something in the Athletic that said there's been a perception internally at Tottenham that when things aren't going so well and/or he's no longer being picked, Sergio Reguilon isn't the easiest of characters to deal with. The general view is that he needs to feel loved and important to really thrive, and the reality is that Spurs have long moved past him being an important player for them. Look, obviously, I don't think Reguilon should be hammered necessarily for this. In terms of, wanting to kind of feel loved and important. Of course, every footballer needs that. Every person in life needs that. It's just a human being, right? But I think it's been quite clear for a long time that Reguilon isn't favoured at Spurs. And look, it's been a shame that we haven't been able to move him on. I think the Turkish window might still be open, if that's an option, potentially, to get him out the door. Who knows? But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that Spurs haven't been able to get this one across the line because he's kind of just sitting there. And I think a lot of people would say, well, why don't we just use him? I don't see that being an option for Spurs. I don't see Reguilon being an option. I don't think he fits the way that we play. I think he's too erratic on the ball. I don't think he's good enough defensively either. I don't think he's a good fit for that inverted fullback position, if I'm being honest. Matthew Coppola says Draghi needs to play every cup in Europa game to get experience and rotate and rest with Kuti Van de Ven. I'd agree with that. Sonny says Draghi is awesome and it's just a shame. As well, it's just a shame him and Romero both look rubbish on the left. I don't think Dragusin looks rubbish on the left, I'll be honest. I don't think it's a case of these players looking rubbish in that position. I think it's just that obviously it upsets kind of the balance of the partnership that you're used to, right? It's kind of just as simple as that. Lancashire should be back in a couple of weeks. But yeah, that's Spence is really unlucky to miss out. But I've kind of seen a lot of stuff like this. Where was it? Here we go. Someone put this tweet out saying, not rating Djed Spence and getting Alfie Devine, and we'll come on to talk about Alfie Devine shortly. Saying, are not really reasons to not rate a manager. This is completely unhinged. So, someone quoted this tweet by saying, get this manager out, please. Just because he didn't pick Spence in the Europa League squad. And someone else has tweeted, been Ange out since before the season started. Now all of our best young players are being sent out on loan. Why anyone would think he's going to bring us success is beyond me. I don't understand why those two things have parallels. Just because some of our youngsters are being sent out on loan, why does that mean that Ange can't bring us success? I don't really know why anyone would have quite a good reason to be Ange out since before the season started, if I'm being honest. Like I said, I'm going to have a video on my channel coming in the next few days. Kind of, look, I know people will get onto me and kind of call me a happy clapper and that I'm being positive. I've been accused of being a fake positive fan or a fake positivity merchant and all this kind of stuff. But I do think there are reasons to kind of be positive moving forward. But that, again, that's not acknowledging some of the poor decision making that has been made, and at a board level, and again tactically to an extent as well. This is just kind of a delusional level of negativity to just sack the manager because he's left Reguilon and Spence out of the Europa League squad. I think people like this, you're just not really going to help them. They've got their view, and if you feel the opposite, just try and block it out as much as possible. But I've just seen way too much stuff like this. And I'll come back to some of the comments that we had earlier in the stream. Not necessarily even really to do with Ange, but someone, Ilmatic said, have some fans forgotten the state of Spurs when Ange took over? You can't change 24 years of losing and losing mentality in 1 year. Get a grip, back Ange. I agree, totally agree. Macaulay says it's all good and well saying Enoch out, and I agree, but it's not going to happen as no one is going to buy us as a club. Again, we'll see what happens in the next few years in terms of Spurs being bought out or minority ownership and all that kind of stuff. But again, we don't know what's going to happen. Most of these people with those opinions are as useful as glasses for a bloke with no ears. I just don't think people like this actually. There was another tweet as well that I kind of wanted to bring up. Oh no, it was this one. Yeah. Not rating Spence and Alfie Devine. Let's talk about Alfie Devine then, because Devine has moved on loan to Westerlo in Belgium, which is where Luka Vuskovic is. Again, obviously, Alfie Devine was on the bench on Sunday at Newcastle, and I think again a lot of people are kind of using that to push this agenda of like, oh, he's not using the young players, that he was on the bench, don't let that fool you and all this kind of stuff, and now he's been sent out on loan, he's clearly not rated. It's a good opportunity for Alfie Devine to continue his development. He's at the same club as Luka Vuskovic, he's going abroad, playing football, he's already had a championship loan, he's already had a League One loan. We've got a lot of midfielders. We have got a lot of midfielders. A lot of players that can play in that position. Look, I rate Alfie Devine. I think he had a really good pre-season. But anyone that's getting annoyed at this loan, I don't really understand it. I really don't understand it. Nico says we need Patrick Dorgu ASAP. I'm from Denmark, and Dorgu scored just 48 seconds after coming off the bench in his debut. Absolute baller. Yeah, I saw that. He's been very impressive. Him or Bradley Locko, I think, will be someone that Spurs should definitely be looking at. Josh Hayden says, I don't like our owners, but there seems to be a false narrative pushed on Twitter that Levy is extremely bad. However, look at Villa's owners and what they're doing. Other promoters aren't much better. I agree, mate. I do agree. Look, everyone's going to be more emotional naturally about their own ownership and kind of ignore what's going on outside of that because you're so wrapped up in your own club, right? You're mainly focused on what your club's doing, what your owners are doing, what your manager's doing, of course, and you kind of, sort of don't look elsewhere. And I do agree with you. And I'm not gonna. Again, I'm not upset or not angry at people that are really staunchly Levy out, or really staunchly Enoch out. That's your prerogative. That's kind of your opinion. I have my thoughts on it. I don't think Daniel Levy is as bad a chairman as anyone makes out. Do I think he's made some bad decisions? Absolutely. Managerially, in terms of the recruitment, in terms of not backing certain managers, mainly Pochettino, in my personal opinion. I think a lot of people say that he didn't back Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte was unwilling to sign a contract and commit to the club. Why would Daniel Levy just suddenly go and give this man a £200 million war chest? I think he's backed Ange Postecoglou. Could he have backed Ange Postecoglou more? Yes. Could any chairman in the Premier League back the manager more? Absolutely. And look, this isn't about other clubs. But I don't see some of the arguments that are being put across. I don't really see it. And I don't understand the constant need for kind of pushing this needle. Look, if it's your opinion, that's absolutely fine. But don't call out other fans for not quite sharing it in the same way or not quite sharing it as strongly as you, who just kind of want to get on with their life supporting Tottenham Hotspur, making content around Tottenham, right? Having their opinions on it. You don't need to bring other people into the conversation all the time. And there's a reason I'm not saying names in this, because I've been the last sort of week or so. I know it's going off a bit of a tangent from Alfie Devine, right? But off the back of certain accounts' tweets, I've been called a disease to this community. I've had not a lot of stick, but some stick from areas of kind of that fan base that will say that they will want to invite. I've heard multiple times from. Let's just make it clear. I got called out by Tottenham Away again. I saw a clip of a stream from Tottenham Away where they were basically saying that they'd invited me and all these other people on who are a bit more positive, like Mitch, like Sonny, all these kind of other people, maybe, to come on and debate them, but we won't do it. I've never been invited on by Tottenham Away to go and debate on their channel. I probably wouldn't want to do it anyway, if I'm being honest. But, I'm kind of... This was in response to a tweet that I made, right, saying... from Cook Past Tim, who's been on Twitter for a long time as a Spurs fan, saying, beginning to sense some enjoyment taken by Spurs fans when we lose. The desire to be right is stronger than the actual support. What a sad existence. I said 100% this. We get it. We're all frustrated. We know there's problems. We all know this squad isn't perfect, but you can't help but feel there's certain corners of this fan base, especially on here, that are absolutely reveling in delight because they feel their points are being proven. And look, to an extent, people's points might be being proven, right? If they kind of have that opinion and they don't feel comfortable about the manager, they don't feel comfortable about the way that we're playing. I've got no problem with people not liking Postecoglou or not backing him as much as I do. Like I said, my opinion doesn't carry more weight than anybody else in this community or any fan or whatever, anyone who doesn't have like a platform, anyone that just goes to games as a fan that gets on with stuff. It's just my opinion, right? I can see, or I can feel like I can see where we're going under Postecoglou. I do think there's people that focus too much on the negatives and refuse to acknowledge positive thought when it comes to some of these, when it comes to certain areas, or certain points when it comes to the way that we're playing or certain signings that are being made. I feel like it's constantly agendas being pushed rather than seeing the signing or the game and the performance on face value. A lot of the like stuff like this, I said that we had a world-class performance against Everton. I said that we had a brilliant summer window. I didn't say these things. I just didn't say it either. I might have said that we had a brilliant window in terms of getting out a lot of the deadwood. I was happy with a lot of the players that were brought in through the door. But again, I've said it time and again. This window will probably be defined by what we didn't do. And I've said that multiple times across multiple videos, right? I've said that a lot. And I said it earlier when we were talking about Djed Spence. Look, I'd rather just me get on with what I'm doing. People like this or anyone in the community get on with what they're doing. Let people kind of have their own opinion. And let's just all just get on with it, right? Let's just all just get on with it. I've seen a lot of people in this kind of community been getting, a lot of abuse for the kind of their thoughts on things and, personal stuff. And it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, well, yeah, look, like I said, I don't know how this kind of conversation has sprung from Alfie Devine being sent out on loan, but like I said, we'll go back to these tweets. I feel like people have just got their preconceptions about Postecoglou and just won't let it go, just won't kind of let it go. And they kind of use any bit of decision that's being made, whether it's Spence being left out of the squad or Alfie Devine being sent out on loan, as a reason to not back the manager, as a reason to want him to be sacked. It's just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to do a video on it. I'm not going to go into, because there's a lot of data and there's a lot of stats to suggest that Tottenham are very much moving in the right direction, but also those stats very clearly highlight what the issue is with Tottenham. And I said it in my stream on Monday against Newcastle anyway, but I'm going to go into it in a bit more depth in a video that's going to come over the weekend. So I don't want to go into that too much now. I just feel like and again, I feel like it's a very, I spoke about this. Me and Seb on Football, Seb Martin did a podcast yesterday. We did Daring and Doing. It's not actually out yet. Will didn't do it. Will was on holiday, so it was me and Seb. We did it together. It's not out. It should be out tonight, hopefully, or tomorrow. It was more of a holistic kind of just chat about Spurs and where we're kind of feeling. I just don't think this divide that is kind of being put across. There is a massive divide in terms of the ownership. No doubt about that, 100%. And look, I don't have any issue with anyone that is Levy out or is Enoch out or anything like that, because there are a lot of valid points that are being put across by these people, and I totally get that. Totally get that. I know a lot of people that feel like that. I know a lot of people that kind of sit where I sit in terms of like, well, look, you can't compare yourself to other clubs all the time, but things could be a lot worse. We're actually quite well run. Could we do more? Absolutely, 100% in the transfer market. But again, we are a very sustainably run football club. And I know it's not the most sexy thing in the world, but we have also spent a lot of money. Could we have done more this summer? Yes, absolutely, we could have. And that might end up leaving us short. And that might be a problem for Tottenham. But we'll just have to see what happens. I feel like people are getting too carried away in terms of judging what's going to happen this season off the first kind of 3 games, and that things are going to be really negative, and that we're not as good as people make out. All these people that are kind of being positive about Spurs are just saying it because they're delusional, or it's kind of this level of toxic positivity almost, where they can't bring themselves to say anything negative about Ange. That's not true. I've had plenty of negative things to say about Postecoglou and maybe some of the tactics and maybe some of the way that we play. Not a whole lot, because I love the way that we play. I really do. And I think there's a clear issue in terms of what's going wrong and what needs to kind of be fixed. But yeah, me and Seb had a kind of a long chat on that on here yesterday. So I'll obviously tweet out when the episode's up, and I hope you guys enjoy that. Matty Cushing says Ben, Will and Seb will be sick. We've actually done a pod with Seb before anyway, but we want to get more people on the podcast. But like I say, look, I guess what I'm saying is I've probably waffled a lot on this and talked a lot of nonsense and kind of not made a lot of sense. But I think what I'm trying to say is just don't let anybody else's opinion kind of dictate how you feel about this football club, whether it's from a positive point of view or whether it's from a negative point of view. Of course, kind of have these people. Look, there's a lot of people in the space that I really respect, and I kind of learn a lot from them in terms of more tactical things, or like I take things from their opinion and I think, oh, I didn't quite see it like that, right? But don't kind of be swayed down a different path because people are kind of trying to push their agendas all the time. Like I said, look, I don't see any opinions that I give out as you should 100% agree with me, right? I'm not just being positive for the sake of it. I'm being positive about Spurs largely for the most part because it's how I feel. I can't get away from that. That's how I feel, right? I feel like I've seen a lot in the last 12 months to be very positive about in terms of the way that we are moving forward as a football club on the pitch and off the pitch as well. In terms of the changing behind the scenes, in terms of the recruitment structure, in terms of the sort of profile of players that we're going for. Like I said, 1 million times so far in the stream. Could we do more? Absolutely, we could do more. Have we left managers short in the past? Yes. Have we potentially left Postecoglou a little bit short in this summer window? Maybe, although Postecoglou came out and said that he had been backed. And again, people will accuse Postecoglou off the back of that for just being a bit of a mouthpiece for Daniel Levy. He's just saying it because he doesn't want to upset the apple cart. I'm pretty sure Postecoglou would really say how he felt. He's that kind of character. And I think the ownership of backed Ange and are in this for the long haul in terms of buying into his vision. I think a lot of people get confused in terms of what backing a manager actually means. A lot of the time people just see it as purely financial. And I've said this 1 million times as well, so apologies if I sound like a broken record. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that don't feel how you feel. Put out your opinions. That's absolutely fine. Everyone can do that, right? But one, don't expect everyone to agree with you. And don't also, people just need to stop kind of making it personal. It's just a football opinion. And look, I've had a lot of people say to me, I remember when Sava, I don't really interact with Sava at all, right? I didn't really know that. This isn't a disrespectful thing either, by the way. I genuinely wasn't really aware of him when I kind of stepped into this world. And obviously he called me out with Tottenham away on that video, sort of saying that, I was uber positive and that we're playing genius ball or whatever that means. And obviously that Twitter clip did the rounds. But Sava apologised the next day in a video. I haven't spoken to him. A lot of people kind of in this community say that he's actually a good guy. I just don't necessarily agree with his football opinions. And that's absolutely fine. I don't necessarily kind of want to go on these debate shows, not because it's like I don't feel like I could do it. I don't feel like I could get my points across, but I just want to do what I'm doing, guys. I'm trying to build my own little community over here, which I think, we've got 5,300 subscribers, right? And I feel like we're building something here, right? And look, there's people in my stream. I've seen a lot of people with the purple and gold and Enoch out and leave you out. And like I said, I will respect people for that. That's absolutely fine. I don't necessarily agree with you, but, as long as you're kind of not coming in here and making, kind of digging people out or digging people out or being personal to people or having issues with people in here or whatever, that's fine. Everyone's allowed an opinion. Totally get that. And if you don't agree with me, put it in the comments and we'll talk about it. That's absolutely fine. I get, I've had people not agree with the way I see football and saying that I don't quite agree with what you said here, but, that's absolutely fine. Like, that's absolutely fine. Look, football is full of opinions, and look, football also makes hypocrites out of everybody as well, right? Naturally, you're never going to kind of have the same opinion on something for the whole time you see it. Like, I might in a year's time think, you know what, let's say that, oh, okay, I'm not quite seeing it under Ange Postecoglou. I think that maybe Spurs should make a change in terms of getting a new manager in. I don't feel like that right now at all. I'm not even near that. And again, I've seen way too many people that are near that. Look, I think I understand the frustration about the ownership because it feels like we've been almost in a state of a rebuild for a long time, right? And I get that. I get that we haven't won the thing in a long time. I think a lot of this also has to do with the fact that Arsenal are doing well. I think we spoke about this on the Fighting Cock yesterday. I think a lot of frustration comes from that because it's not nice to kind of see your neighbours, doing really well. That adds to that frustration when we were used to finishing above them for a long time as well. And that's hard to accept. That is hard to accept. Naturally, look, people say, look, just focus on your own football club. Don't worry about them. But that's the beauty of football rivalry is that you will always care about what your neighbours are doing. Do you not think Man United fans feel just utterly depressed about how good Liverpool are, how good Manchester City are, the fact that they're never going to be able to get back to that period of dominance that they had, right? Naturally, as a football fan, of course, you're going to be looking at what other clubs are doing, what your rivals are doing. And I think that does sort of impact how people view Spurs in terms of looking at Arsenal. But I've said this multiple times and people don't want to hear this because you don't want to give Arsenal a lot of credit, right? Look, on TikTok or on YouTube, I'll have a dig at Arsenal, I'll have a pop at them, I'll have a pop at their fans because it's a laugh, right? it's a laugh. You know, it's what you do. It's football banter. If you go down the pub, right? My friend group pretty much is split down the middle, basically between Tottenham and Arsenal. I have more kind of, and my family as well, right? A lot of my family basically split down the middle between Tottenham and Arsenal. If you go to the pub or whatever, and if you go to the pub or whatever, or you're at a family thing and it's like naturally football comes up and you start debating, you'll take the mick out of them. You'll kind of have little pops and that. That's what makes rivalry so brilliant. But it's not nice to see them doing so well. It's not nice to see them with smiles on their faces. And I do think that has kind of led to this bit more impatience with the project that Spurs are kind of currently undertaking, because it's not nice to see your neighbours doing so well. I think we've kind of got to get out of our own way in that aspect, as much as it is hard to do that. But also, we could learn a lot from Arsenal. It took them quite a long time to get to the point where they are. I think nobody... I want to play this clip from a podcast, actually. Because anyone please that's in the comments, look, and I respect you if you have this opinion. Well, I don't really, because I don't agree. In terms of if you wanted to get rid of Ange Postecoglou, what's the solution? Where do we go from there? Because that would be absolute sacrilege to sack this manager at any point this season, unless we start losing 10, 15 games in a row, right? Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I wanted to play you this. Let me just mute myself. Because this section from the Athletic Tifo podcast kind of summed up exactly how I feel, and I'll come to your comments in a sec once we kind of listen to this. But big up everyone in the chat. I massively appreciate kind of all your support as always. Let me just mute myself quickly.
The way I think about every football team is that they're all on the pilgrimage to Pep Guardiola land. Like that's where they're all going. Some of them are further along the pathway than others, but every team, whether you're at the bottom of the Championship or you're at the top of the Premier League, you're all on the pilgrimage to Pep Guardiola land. And Tottenham are quite far along, having Ange Postecoglou as their coach. So if you were to end up in a situation where, let's say, Spurs finished 8th this season, which I don't think will happen, but it could.
Good.
And they were to let Postecoglou go and something wasn't working, are they then looking for another manager that does the same sort of thing? Or are they, because presumably they don't want to change style, right? Like they're in the right ballpark, aren't they?
I think you gain all the benefits from what he'd offer you by keeping him for another 2 years. Arteta finished like 8th or 7th a couple of times, didn't he? Because you think of exactly on that note of trying to put players who represent your character, which is essentially what he's trying to say, right? You want people with responsibility who do the right things, represent what he wants to see. That's building a team in your image. That's what Arteta has done at Arsenal. That's what you get with them now. And that takes time. And also to get players who have that mentality and attitude, but also have the right technical level for what you want to do is very hard to get in. And you can't do it in 1-2 windows. So they'll probably learn that as they go on. And it takes time to really put in that kind of effort. You can trust that guy to do things. He's won at almost every level he's been at, as far as I'm aware. It takes time to get there. The Premier League is very hard to attract players to Spurs that they would spend the money on to do exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
And everyone wants those players because everyone wants players who take responsibility and have the right technical level.
Yeah.
That is so spot on. It's untrue. And like someone, Huey said, I heard this earlier today. Total sense. Tifo usually do talk sense. Yeah, exactly. Illmatic says Arteta was 8th, 5th, 2nd, and 2nd in his first 5 years. No such thing as instant success. Some Spurs fans don't have the guts for a painful rebuild. Criticise but don't get nasty and toxic coys. Absolutely. That should be the tagline for this stream, I think, to be honest, Illmatic. I think you kind of nailed it there. And look, like I said, I do think a lot of this negativity comes from looking over the road and looking at what Arsenal are doing right now and thinking, we want to be that. We want to be the ones challenging Man City. Have we done enough to back Ange Postecoglou to be on this pilgrimage to Pep Guardiola land? Probably not right now. But what Arsenal did with Edu and what they did with Arteta is they backed a vision. And that eventually led to properly backing the manager and that kind of turning results. We have had a lot of Postecoglou's had a lot of backing. We spent a lot of money. Players of the profile kind of in his image of the way he wants to play. People will, criticise the likes of Brennan Johnson, etc. But Johnson is a player that works in the system, right? Johnson, I think, will continue to get better. Has he had a few poor performances? Absolutely. Has James Maddison had poor performances? Absolutely. Has Son Heung-Min, someone who's been here for however long, had poor performances? Absolutely. Every player in this team, Christian Romero, who's a player that I've banged the drum for so long, who I think is such a brilliant centre-back, has not started the season anywhere near the level that we know he is capable of. But again, I want to come on and talk. I want to kind of leave this conversation for a minute. I hope you guys kind of understand what I'm talking about. I get Paul makes a point here. The club issue. Okay, I should be back now, lads. Yeah, I think I'm back. I got so angry that I'm back. I should be back for you guys now. I can't even remember what I was saying actually. Let me read Paul Gee's comment out again. Where was it? Bear with me a sec. The club issues is never what, want, always. I don't really understand that bit, but I kind of get what you're saying. It's always for tomorrow rather than now, yet this rebuild is required in the style to take. Exactly. I think, look, Paul sounds like a person that is frustrated with the board, which I get. I am sometimes as well. I am a lot of the time in terms of certain decisions that are being made. But acknowledges the fact that we needed to go through this process, and we 100% do. Huey says we're only 3 games into the season. Like I said, guys, there'll be another video on my channel over the weekend where I sort of talk about it in a bit more detail in terms of why we should be positive about, moving forward. Look, it's a really tough run of games coming up after the international break, but just hang in there. We're going to get through this, all right? We'll be fine. We will be fine. I promise you that we'll be fine. Where are we? A couple of other comments that I wanted to read out as well. Yeah, Ilmatic. Yeah. Old man yells at Spurs says ENIC out, but never a solution 2 comes in. Same with the manager. Let's get a new gaffer and give him 1 season, 3 games, and sack him and go again. Yeah, pretty much nailed on. I'd love these people that kind of put these things across to say that Levy's got to go, ENIC has got to go, Ange's got to go. Start. Fair enough. Like fair play if that's what you think. Start coming at me with solutions, please. Please, I want to hear some solutions. But I shouldn't be having to do this stream. I shouldn't be having to have this conversation. But I feel great about where we're going. Are there going to be bumps in the road? Absolutely. Have there already been bumps in the road? Absolutely. Does the record in terms of our form away from home over the last year look great? Absolutely not. Does the fact that we've only kept 4 clean sheets in 32 games look good? Absolutely not. Are these things fixable? Absolutely. Is Ange Postecoglou the manager, in my opinion, to be able to fix these things in terms of the way that we play, in terms of the profile of play that we're bringing in terms of the players that we've already got? Yes. Yes. And if you don't agree with that, that's fine, but that's my opinion. Anyway, let's move on. Let's leave this kind of chat for now. Guys, make sure to like and subscribe, by the way. I massively appreciate that. Anyway, let's move on. It's a bit more positive stuff. So, spoke about this earlier. Actually, sorry, one more negative rant, actually, a little bit here. There was a tweet that really irritated me the other day. Alistair Gold said a little piece on Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire and how the injuries or slow starts of other Spurs players could open the door for plenty of minutes for them in the weeks and months ahead. Obviously, Europa League comes back after the what am I talking about? I've lost my head there. International break. Lots of games. Europa League comes back. Will be chances. Mikey Moore played in the under-21s on Friday, so he wasn't in the squad. On Sunday, Will Lancashire was obviously injured as well. So someone quoted this, and I have no beef with this guy whatsoever. Me, Jack ENIC out, and him had a sort of conversation after this. He said, right on cue, we lose next day article about how Mikey Moore and Lancashire will soon get chances. Well, they were available yesterday, so if Ange cared to agree, where were they? If they are the plan, then why did we sign Werner and Odebear? There is no plan. This is how PR works. I just fundamentally disagree with that. I don't think this guy is a bad guy at all. Like, not calling out this guy whatsoever. I just fundamentally disagree. First, like I said, Lancashire was injured. And also, I kind of agree on Werner. I get that. I totally agree. You can't bring Wilson Odebear into this whatsoever, in my opinion. Mikey Moore, there is clearly a plan in place. I don't understand this cynicism around this perceived lack of plan whenever it comes to some of these younger players, which we sort of talked about earlier, for likes of Alfie Devine and players that are kind of being let go. Yeah. So, look, no problem with this guy whatsoever, but I just didn't agree with that. But yeah, Mikey Moore and Will Lancashire, reasons to be positive. Obviously, Mikey Moore's away with England under 19s, I think, at the moment. And I think they'll get chances when the Europa League comes back. I bought my ticket for Carabag earlier on today, if anyone was wondering, if anybody else has as well. Gary Hunter says, I saw some crazy tweet about people praising Vicario's throwing ability. Why is that even an important stat? It's a great question. It's a great question. I don't know. Great question. People are saying that we're not going in the right direction. Come on, lads. Give your head a wobble. Some of the replies to this were hilarious, by the way. But yeah, we move. Anyway, let's move on. Daniel Kulusevski, captain Sweden yesterday. We'll do a little bit of an international roundup and then we'll kind of finish up, lads. Massively appreciate you kind of spending your Friday evening with me. Let me know in the chat what you've got going on this evening, this weekend. Obviously, everyone's a bit bored with the international break, aren't they? Old Man Yells at Spurs says Timo's a buffer for more in the long run. I agree. I do agree with that. I do agree. PJ Quinn, Odebear's a future star. I can't wrap my mind around anyone not liking that transfer. Again, I agree. Got a video on my channel about that if you want to go give it a watch. Dane Kulusevski created more chances than any other player in Sweden's 3-1 win versus Azerbaijan, the captain leading the way. He had a good game, playing on the right-hand side. This Swedish kind of front four is just devastating, isn't it? Obviously, Lucas Bergvall came off the bench as well in 72 minutes to make his Swedish debut. Isak Gyökeres, Kulusevski and Elanga. Wow. So really good to see Kulusevski obviously shining. Christian Romero. This is a mad stat about Christian Romero. And this is why I will kind of give him kind of the benefit of the doubt for like the poor starts of the season by his own standards that he's had, except for the Everton game where he actually was excellent, even though they were obviously poor side. Romero has travelled a total distance of 162,978 kilometres, which is 211 travel hours hours last season, which is the most of any other football player, reports FIFA Pro. Again, played last night. Again, what a shock. Another clean sheet. In 2023, Christian Romero played 9 times for Argentina, keeping 8 clean sheets and conceding just 2 goals. In 2024, Christian Romero has played 9 times for Argentina, keeping 7 clean sheets and conceding just 2 goals. It was a 3-0 victory, I believe, against who was it? Peru? Oh, Chile. That was it, Chile. Romero actually didn't win either of his tackles. Fraud? Who knows? Anyway, won 4 out of 7 ground duels. Another good performance, another clean sheet, of course. Speaking of, this is kind of how we want to round it up. Obviously, going back to Alfie Devine just quickly, I think it's a good move for him. I do think it's a good loan opportunity for him. Number 10 shirt of Veselo, again going outside your comfort zone, put yourself outside your comfort zone to go abroad and play. With Luka Vuskovic, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. Little flick. 1-2, give me the ball back. Bash, top corner. What a goal that is. This is the schedule for Spurs' international players over the next few days. So Romero's obviously already played. Ben Davies and Brennan Johnson will play tonight against Turkey. Radu Dragusin will play tonight. Solomon plays tonight. Doggy and Vicario will play against France, whether they actually play or not, but they're obviously in the squad. Basuma will play for Mali. Sarr, Archie Gray will play for England 21s against Northern Ireland tonight. Wilson Odebear, France under 21s tonight as well. Josh Keeley, Luca Gunter, Ashley Phillips, Dane Scarlett for the Republic of Ireland and England as well. Mikey Moore in action tomorrow as well. Lucas Bergvall and Daniel Kulusevski back in action. So Sweden's international break is done on Sunday, which is good for them coming back to the club early. And Christian Romero, unfortunately, his game isn't until Tuesday. So again, he doesn't travel back to Spurs and probably until Wednesday, which isn't ideal, but yeah. So like I said, guys, make sure that's kind of where we're going to leave it. Let's actually go to some of the comments first. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, by the way. I massively appreciate you kind of guys getting involved. Travis says, on the note of international teams, take a look at Norway's team and their results, and people think Spurs are underperforming. Exactly. There was a little birdie that said on Twitter about Odegaard being injured. Anyone? Gary Hunter says, I love how Ange name dropped Vuskovic not wanting to block his path. I agree, mate. Yeah, I do. But yeah, hope you guys have a great weekend. There'll be a video on the channel over the next few days, so make sure you go and subscribe. Just kind of breaking down why we're going to be all right. You know, we're going to be fine. Okay? Things are going to be fine. So look out for that over the next few days. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for joining. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And up the Spurs. Nice one. I never know when to actually end this.